Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce our next chief guest for the day, Mr. Sudhakar Rao, director of the ICFI Group. And today, we are thrilled to share a very special moment with all of you. Mr. Sudhakar will be launching his latest book right here on this stage, titled Divisima Business Fables. A huge round of applause for this great milestone that he has achieved and the one that we'll be celebrating right here on this stage. His book, titled Divisima Business Fables, focuses on why not let kids get familiar with business too. Children grow up exploring maths, science, and history, but understanding how people trade, build, solve problems, and work together is just as important. This collection of gentle fables makes those ideas accessible without turning into lessons or lectures. In Divisima, clever animal characters face relatable challenges: a fox who learns the value of fairness, a squirrel who discovers the power of planning, a bee who tries a new way to help her hive. Each story invites curiosity and shows how people or animals build better lives through cooperation and creative thinking. After each story, children find a real-world connection. For example, how Apple, Netflix, or a local store might do something similar. Simple activities, what-if scenarios, and friendly discussion questions follow, encouraging kids to wonder and talk rather than memorize. Perfect for ages 8 to 14, these stories help children feel comfortable with everyday business ideas, just like they do with other school subjects. If you believe kids can think for themselves and discover how the world works through stories, Divisima is a place they will definitely love exploring. So without further ado, let's welcome the man behind this inspiring initiative, Mr. Sudhakar Rao, to officially launch his book and address the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Very good morning to all of you. Shri Navin Mittal IAS, Madam Archana, and all the distinguished guests in front of the stage. Welcome to all of you to this 11th ELCA. That's what they call it, ELCA. We also go by it, we call it ELCA. I'm extremely thankful to observe now for giving me this additional 3-4 minutes of attention, and none other than Mr. Navin Mittal, who is here to actually unveil this book. Thank you so much, sir, for doing it. And this was actually launched or released about a month back. We have sold roughly 2,000 copies. It's a small number, but for me, it's a big movement. A lot of feedback we are receiving from schools, from trainers, about the application of these stories and the possibility of building a kind of a workshop, a kind of a project at the end of each story. So these are 17 stories, and I'm very thankful. Each one of you also should read these books. If you scan the QR code, it will take you to Amazon, and you will pay 99 rupees and buy the book and read it and give me the feedback. Otherwise, I'll give you a hard copy for paying no money at all. Which one you want? Second one you want. I know. All the educators in this world don't want to buy any book. You fell for the trap. Not that you don't have money, but we don't assign that value for a book, generally speaking. It's okay, pardon me for that. But I think you should buy books and read. One is buying books and keeping it in the stack and showing it to the people, or when you do Zoom calls, you have all the library behind you and then show off. That is one way. The other way is to read all the books and speak in the same Zoom call what we have learned from those books. I think we should keep doing the second one. And the third one is a bigger challenge, which is tied to the theme of this event, how AI is going to rob our happiness, and therefore how are we going to negotiate and settle with something better than what kind of bloodbath that it is staring at us, actually. In the next 2 years, we are going to have a merciless onslaught of AI displacing a lot of us in terms of our jobs and the works that we do in more unimaginable ways than what is generally understood in these conclaves. However, let me get into the book. Sir, this book has got simple stories. The kids are supposed to read the stories through the characters of animals, and they actually get it. Although we have given lessons at the end of it in terms of exercises, even without that, they'll get the lessons. For example, there are animals, they are talking about having a problem there. They want to transport perishable goods and fragile goods from this part of the lake to the other side of the lake. So the larks and the flying birds cannot carry everything. So they identified kangaroos. Kangaroos have got a pouch. So small birds, just born babies, fragile items are given to kangaroos to actually transport this material to the other side because of the pouch. And then kangaroos get paid for some money. So stories like this, problem solving, critical thinking, standing up for someone, empathy, care, concern, which is most required nowadays. All these lessons are drawn from the stories that we have narrated as part of this Divisima Business Fables. And these are easy to read. And especially in schools when we don't generally focus on business education or business grounding, we only focus on maths, physics, chemistry, so on and so forth. Not that all of them go up to become mathematicians or politicians when they study civics and history, but they need that background, they need that grounding. Similarly, in business also we need to prime them before they actually go for undergraduate education in business management. They need to understand some principles, but more importantly, their mind will be open to what is called entrepreneurial thinking, problem solving, problem finding. The bigger issue is problem finding. When a problem is given, a lot of people can solve, sir, but do you have a mindset of problem finding, not fault finding, problem finding mindset we need. Critical thinking, empathy, unless it comes to me, I don't care about what happens to my neighbor. How do we reverse it? How do we do better than that? Some of those issues, some of those critical parameters that are required for us to stay ahead of machines and stay ahead of our own human race, those important parameters are captured in this. We are going to write a couple of more books for 14 to 16, and then 16 to 18, and 18 to 20, and stop there. In terms of small stories, as we ascend, we will probably get into adult romance as a small little background, some kind of mushy romance, and then again get back to problem finding and problem solving. So that's the vision. Now let me tell you one story. In the Divisima forest, we have the weaver birds. Weaver birds are there building their beautiful nests everywhere in the forest. Now, there is a weaver bird that is doing year after year, even including this year. Suddenly, Observe Now has brought one merchant, and that merchant has left behind a very shiny machine that actually weaves these nests. So the first product produced has been given. Everyone looked at that, amused. Wow, the machine-made nest is superb. It's perfect. The weave is perfect. The reed and the raft, it goes perfect there. It's like mathematically it's perfect. And everyone was quite impressed. So these weaver birds took a step behind and said, why should I weave when there's a machine that is doing? So it's given to the machine, orders are given to machine is doing a good job, everyone is appreciating and placing huge orders. And then came the monsoon of July and August, like the way we have in Hyderabad and across the country. And during this monsoon, due to the rain and due to the onslaught of wind, these nests which are built by, built by the machine are washed away and collapsed. Whereas the nests built by the bird itself withstood the onslaught of rain and storm and wind. So there's an old owl that comes and says, there are machines that build, but it is you, little bird, you know how to build for yourself for life. If you build it with love and care, you build for resilience and meaning, and you have a way against the wind and water that machines lack. They have design, flawless design, but they may not actually have the soul of strength. Whereas if you do something, I mean, the lesson is human involvement in that. And human involvement brings what is called meaning and purpose and soul, and then you can weather many a storm. The bigger lesson is that. So that's where such stories are part of Divisima Business Fables. Now let me very quickly segue into the theme of this session. And the theme of this session is how universities and schools, education institutions build for future in the times of AI, in the age of AI. When you bring in more human involvement and use it in a transformative relationship, in fact, this is not only segueing into the theme of this session, but it is also part of my next book on AI. Myself and my co-author Hari were writing. Last month, on the same stage, I unveiled the concept note of this book. We called it TASTE Framework. There is no proper acronym for TASTE, but then we called it TASTE for want of a better word. And now we have improved. We have written chapter number 3 also. We are calling it co-play, C-O-P-L-A-Y, co-play. Co-play epitomizes the fact that we need to build a relationship with AI and not use it as a servant master, not use it for command, but be a companion to AI. Don't give instruction, draw insights, and then have huge multiple times result. Today it is 2x result if you use the normal mundane tasks that you want AI to perform. But if you have transformative relationship with it through various modes which we are proposing, you will have 10x, 50x kind of results, and we should work on that. And what are the real life examples for us in this world? IBM, as you know, has invested about $4 billion in its Watson project for oncology. Some of you from healthcare and some of you from AI would know this. It has invested huge money. It has collaborated with some of the bigger names, including the Memorial Sloan, and they built this project. It is supposed to be AI doctor, and this AI doctor is supposed to cure some 12 forms of cancer. Now, the 12 forms of cancer it's supposed to cure, and it was marketed heavily. You know what happened is history, that it wanted to replace the doctors, but the people who were actually training the system, the AI embedded system, they were giving synthetic data and then training the module. When you give synthetic data and not on-ground patient data worldwide, you know, it gets into a different kind of a bias altogether. And the results and the recommendations given by this Watson were not liked by various practicing doctors. And there was a discord between these doctors, the subject matter experts, and the machine which is supposed to aid them. So instead of trying a replacement, they should have tried a collaboration. That failed. And the cost of that is pretty huge. Huge PR cost, which is not estimated, but only the P&L that we see is about $4 billion. Now look at what McDonald's has done. McDonald's has done this AI drive-through, which you all know. Historically, they wanted to improve the efficiency of taking orders for your burgers. Now, when they started this, within no time, they had adverse reactions and responses coming from the system, which says, you know, funny things like beacon on ice cream, you know, 12 sweet teas, all kinds of orders it was taking. It was actually not built for diversity of accent, diversity of taste, diversity of requirement. It was built on half-baked things. Of course, if you build it now, you will build it much better. But AI alone cannot actually solve this problem. If you leave it to work on itself, you will have to collaborate with it and build it for diversity, and then they immediately withdrew it. The example of Amazon's AI recruitment that they did, you know what happened initially? The AI recruitment engine was working. It was fed with large numbers, overwhelmingly large number of male resumes from men. And then it disregarded if anyone said women's. Even man says it has women's thing in the resume, it was discard you. So it was just not fair. You are supposed to be fair in your recruitment, it failed to be fair. The bias crept in, the bias is given adverse responses. There are many such examples in history, and today you would do much, much better. But what is the moot point? The moot point is that you need to co-play with AI. You need to co-play with AI and get into the means and the modes that will define and give better relationship with us. With AI, it gives better relationship and better results for our businesses. In education institutions, universities and colleges, last month, this is widely publicized, sir. In MIT, there was this class going on. It was an online session on systems design course. In the same class, people had same number of tools, same version of tools also. Same number of tools and same versions of tools, all the class members. The problem was to be solved by the professor. One of the students has solved it much, much better than the professor could imagine. To that extent, it's fine. But there are others with the same tools and same versions have not even reached the baseline of that problem that was defined. So what it means is that the way we engage with AI tools, the way we build relationship with these AI tools has to actually transform drastically. We proposed several modes. I'll talk about one or two modes. The first mode that we talked about is, it is called sparring. Sparring is you debate and fight with AI. You challenge it. You ask questions which you generally don't ask based on the output. Once you do that, it'll come to a better result. So that's called sparring as a mode. The second one is dancing. Dancing has got rhythm. You have to do it together. So you ask the AI, can we refine it a little better than what it is? Then you get more and more avenues. I'm simplifying it. I don't want to take too much time. Then there's a third one, which is called jamming. Jamming is creative exploration. That is, what weird thing can we do with this output? If you ask like that, it will take you to a different plane altogether. What more can be done? So this kind of taking AI as your companion, working on results that are unimaginably currently available, by maintaining these modes, you would have used AI much to your advantage and to a better result. So the book Co-Play that we are writing is about the possibility, the immense possibility of taking AI to the next level. It is orbit jumping. It is not mundane. And we need to bring this, and we need to tell the collaboration potential that is lying out there in our universities, schools, and colleges. And then we should be ready for the onslaught which I was talking about, which is just lurking around the corner. And people who organize these conferences like Observe Now and others should have an AI-embedded system in its audio where if the speaker is actually speaking, making a big point, there is a high pitch in the tone, right? So that should be sensed, and there should be an automatic clapping that should come from behind. So people sitting in the front row will think that somebody is clapping, so they will also clap. Thank you so much.